Hi everyone, in this video we'll discuss the second verb called filter in this dplyr series. If you haven't watched the first video yet, the link's on the top right, please watch it. In this video we'll talk about 5 ways you can filter in dplyr package and what are the different commands you can use inside filter, what are the syntax of filter, and how to save the output of filter in a data frame, just like we did with select. Um, with that, let's get started. I'll just first clean the environment to get things rolling by rm list is equal to ls. Dataset being imported is the same as the sales order dataset that we used in the previous video for select and in the first video for package installation. I'll paste the link in the description below. You can use it to practice in your RStudio as well. So I'll run this chunk and we have the sales order dataset ready. Right? Order date, region, rep, item, units, unit cost, and total. Now we'll load the dplyr package by using the library command just as we did in the previous video. Nothing new here. And once that is done, we start with the first filter function. This you might have seen before in the first part of the video where we did the package installation. This was there as an example. So the syntax for filter is filter column is equal to. So you want to filter sales order, then filter rep is equal to Jones. So only filter the rows in which rep is equal to Jones. Once I run this, you see that there's a data set created called sales underscore Jones, and all the columns are filtered where rep is equal to Jones. So if you want to analyze something only for Jones, you can just use the filter command and extract this data set, right? But this is the most basic way of using filter, and in 80% of the cases you will use it in this way only. What if you want to add more conditions to your dataset, like the AND operator? Rep is equal to Jones and item is equal to pencil, right? So for that, what you'll have to do is sales order, then the chaining operator, filter rep is equal to Jones and item is equal to pencil. So now only those rows will get filtered where rep is equal to Jones and the item is pencil. I'll run this. You see this dataset sales, Jones, and you see that Jones only sold pencil twice in 2 rows and only these 2 rows were filtered, right? So this is how you do with the AND operator inside filter, right? Now what if you have to do with the OR operator? I mean, sometimes we need AND, sometimes we need OR, right? If we talk about that. So for OR means it's a union, right? So I want to check 2 conditions, either which can be true, and I want the output based on that. So Jones and pencil, I already had it in the bracket before. Now I want to do OR rep is equal to Gill and pen. So I only want rows which has Jones and pencil, or I want rows Gill and pen. Both can also work, right? So once I run this, you'll see that the dataset I have, the Jones rows are the same, which were extracted before, and then Gill and pen, there's only 1 row in the dataset. So this is how you can actually parse multiple conditions in filter using and or, right? So these are the 3 ways we have done up until now: the basic filter search, using and using or. Now you can do multiple combinations with or and based on whatever your complexity of your query is. But yeah, this is the most basic way you can understand how to use and or inside a filter command. Now, what if you have a numerical column and you want to only filter those rows which are between a certain range? Let's say we have a column called unit cost, right? If you look at the sales order data set, there's a column called unit cost, and the unit cost column is varying across multiple values. You want to only check between certain values how, I mean, greater than A, less than equal to B, right? So if for that we don't need to use the operators greater than less than, we have a function which we can use in filter itself. It's called between function, right? So the syntax is as follows: sales order, then filter between, mention the column name is unit cost, right? Between unit cost 5 and 15, any values between $5 and $15 rows will be given as output. So the moment I run this sales zone between dataset, I get all the columns. Unit cost is either above 5 or below 15, right? So this is the between operator, which might come useful when you're dealing with a lot of numerical columns and you want to filter or see how many columns, how many rows come in a certain range, right? In dataset, you may have NAs. When I say NAs, I mean blank values or junk values which you don't want to use. And you would like to know, okay, if I have a column with 1000 people or 1000 rows, how many of those rows are blanks or NAs, right? So for that, there's a command in R which we use called is.na, right? But if we add an exclamation point before that, it becomes not. So just like you talked about, read the chaining operator as then, read the exclamation point as not, right? So filter not is.na brackets unit cost. That means in unit cost, if there is an na, right, it becomes true. Not true becomes false, right? Only filter those rows which are not na in the column unit cost. So once I run this, I'll get sales shown is.na and I'll get all the 43 values because none of the rows were NAs, right? So this is how you actually have to use an is.na command with a not operator on left to only filter the rows without any blank values. Just take a minute to think about this na command. This might be a little bit complicated to think it through, but this will be used in your datasets a lot when somebody wants to know, okay, in this dataset, how many NAs are there? Please remove the rows from NAs, right? So this is how you will achieve that objective when you use the is.na command with a not operator on the left hand side of it. Now for the final part, you might have seen in SQL that we have a limit operator that we want to select star from the data set where etc etc, and at the end you write limit 5. That means you only limit the output to the first 5 rows. In our dplyr, to do that we have to use the slice function. Here it's not exactly a filter function. This is a slice function, completely different, but it's performing a filtration task. That's why I have included it here. So for slice, you'll do 1 is to 5. That means row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only want from sales order dataset. So once we run this chunk, you'll see there's a dataset created called sales Jones slice, and this will be 5 rows from the sales order dataset, which will be untouched, unoperated on, and no filtration command is run. Only the slice command is run, that we only want to see the first 5 rows. You will hardly use the slice operator. It's just that this is achieving the same purpose as the filtration functions, but in a very unorthodox manner. So I just included that because this is kind of knowledge as to what to do when you need certain outputs. But yeah, mostly you will be using the initial 4 to 5 and or is na between operator and the basic filtration that we talked earlier in the video. That's it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.